Good morning. Today is Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. Yesterday, we established that the main idea of the holiday of Chanukah is a holiday to reject assimilation. We contrasted it with Purim, where the Haman and Achashverosh wanted to physically kill Jews. The Assyrian Greeks didn't necessarily want to kill Jews. They were fine to leave them alive as long as they would reject their Torah values. And as long as they would be willing to eat non-kosher food in public and bow down to idols and other forms of Assyrian Greek practice, they were welcome to have them. But that is what Yehuda Maccabee and his family fought against. They fought against assimilation. It was, in fact, the first human war for religious freedom, that we have the right to serve God the way we want and not to be forced to serve God in some other way. And we talked about what would be the formula for us today to reject assimilation. And we quoted the formula that Avraham used. When Avraham was buying a field in which to bury his wife Sarah, he says to the people of Ches, Ger v'soshav anochi, I am an immigrant citizen. And those two terms are contradictory. And as Rav Soloveitchik explains, Avram was saying that when it comes to matters of principle, matters of God, spirituality, matters of morality, I am a ger. I'm an immigrant. I'm not from here. I don't share your values. When it comes to issues of social needs, of working together for the common good, Toshav, I'm a citizen. I'm with you. And we said that was exemplified by this custom that some people have to put their menorah so that there is a mixture of oil and water at the bottom, and then the top is filled with oil, so that as you look at the lights, and last night we had the beautiful, beautiful experience to see the entire menorah lit. I hope that for all of you it was an inspiring sight and an experience. But if you had a menorah like that, you would see visibly the fact that oil and water don't mix. There's got to be a balance. There's got to be both, but there has to be a separation. And so yesterday we began to talk about how do we do this today. And yesterday I spoke about the fact that it has to start in the Jewish home, that a Jewish home has to be suffused with Jewish objects and Jewish values and Jewish practices. And we talked about the lesson that comes from the mezuzah being adjacent in proximity to the menorah. That the menorah, ideally, the menorah and the mezuzah should surround our doorways, so that, because both of them have the same idea of recognizing that God's presence is there in our home, and that means that we have to act properly, not the way other people act in certain ways. Today I want to add two more elements to this. And the first is this idea that our homes should be a refuge where Jewish practices and Jewish objects and Jewish values are lived and transmitted. It must start early. Earlier than you could even imagine. There's a passage in the Midrash, very mysterious passage, that talks about the different empires that held sway over the Jewish people at different times. The Babylonians, the Medians, the Assyrian Greeks, the Romans, and of course, and this is a big part of what we celebrate on Chanukah, we withstood all of those mighty powers. We withstood them, and we still today are here, and we flourish, and none of them are here. And we withstood and maintained our practices and our values as Jews. But our rabbis in the Medrash refer specifically to the darkness that encompassed the Jewish people when they were being influenced and pressured by the Assyrian Greeks, who darkened our eyes with their evil decrees. You remember from the story of Chanukah that we mentioned this before, there were certain specific decrees that the Assyrian Greeks forbade the Jews from observing, mitzvos in the Torah, against which Matisyahu and his family, the Chashmonaim, fought against. But the words of our rabbis in referring to this era, the Chanukah era, who darkened our eyes with their evil decrees, saying, "Write on the horn of an ox that you have no connection with the God of Israel." First of all, God forbid. But the Assyrian Greeks required that Jewish people would write on the horn of an ox these words, that you have no connection with the God of Israel. Chas v'shalom, of course, it's not true. But that's one of the ways in which the Assyrian Greeks tried to wean Jews away from an observance of Hashem and service of Hashem. And of course, we know they were all too successful until Yehuda Maccabee and his family started to fight back. But that's a very strange decree. And many commentators question, what were the Assyrian Greeks so interested in that you should write certain words on the horn of an ox, that you have no connection with the God of Israel? It sounds very, very bizarre. A number of decades ago, there was a great scholar. His name was Rabbi Leib Gurovitz. And he was a rabbi and teacher in Gateshead, England. And he was a brilliant and original thinker. A brilliant and original creative thinker. And he offered the following explanation of these cryptic words to write on the horn of an ox. Now, he is a person, a great Torah scholar. He often visited museums, especially historical museums. And he once explored an exhibit of ancient Greek artifacts. And there, he came upon the description of an invention that was used in Greek society. Remember, this is more than 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago. It's not a new problem. Sometimes mothers of newborn babies are not able to nurse their newborn babies for whatever medical reasons, or because, God forbid, the mother had died in childbirth, so the baby is not able to nurse from his own mother. So the ancient Greeks served for an object that they could use as a kind of a baby bottle. Something that was wide, but had a very long, narrow mouth. And they found that they could improvise using the horn of a large animal, like an ox. They would hollow out the horn, make a small hole in the narrow end, and they could use this object as a baby bottle. When Rav Gurovitz saw this, he realized that this might be the key to understanding the words of our sages before. The Assyrian Greeks did not want to wipe out the Jewish people. They wanted to wipe out Judaism. The ideology and the lifestyle of serving Hashem, which was the opposite of their own ideology and lifestyle. And they realized a great truth. To accomplish this, they had to start with newborn babies. And that's why they decreed that on every, in quotation marks, baby bottle, they had to write the words that were a denunciation of God in Judaism, God forbid. And this was the dangerous darkness which our sages identified that was imposed by the Assyrian Greeks. Thank God they were not successful, but the lesson for us is of critical importance because we can start no later than they did to imbue our babies, to imbue our children with a sense of wonder at God's Torah and the beauty of a Jewish lifestyle. All the practices of Chanukah, including the playfulness and the games and the joy of gathering the family, these are wonderful vehicles for conveying to even the youngest baby a love for God and a love for God's Torah. But this is where it has to start. The Jewish home is the vehicle, but it's got to start right away. The Assyrian Greeks understood this. We need to understand it and use it in a positive way ourselves. Element number 3. We need to be sure that the content of the Jewish values and Jewish practice and Jewish ideology, the way to serve Hashem, that the content of that is the correct content for our time. I want to share with you a remarkable story. I heard this many, many years ago from Rabbi Shlomo Riskin. Let's review the details of the Chanukah menorah and the miracle of the oil. Remember, the Beis HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, was in practice every day. First ritual of the day was to light the menorah. Of course, it required olive oil with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. And then the Assyrian Greeks came, and they defiled the temple. They halted the service. They erected idols in the courtyard of the temple. And the daily service was halted. And the first thing in the morning, there was not the lighting of the menorah. And there was not the need for the oil with the seal of the Kohen Gadol. And that lasted for a couple of years until the Hashmonaim, Yehuda Maccabee and his family fought back against this. And they were successful in reclaiming the Beit HaMikdash, cleansing it, as we say in our prayers, purifying it, and rededicating it to the service of Hashem, starting with a regular daily service. The first thing in the morning is the lighting of the menorah with the oil with the seal of the Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Riskin asked the following question: who is the real hero of Chanukah? Think about that for a moment, because there are a number of candidates as to who is the real hero of Chanukah. But listen to what Rabbi Riskin says. The real hero of the Chanukah story is the nameless Kohen, a Kohen we don't know his name, who on seeing the Beit HaMikdash defiled by the Assyrian Greeks, he's there in the Beit HaMikdash, he's been serving every day along with all the other Kohanim, and now he sees it's going to come to an end. The Assyrian Greeks are coming in, they're defiling it, it's going to end. So what does he do? He takes a jug of oil with the seal of the Kohen Gadol, and he hides it because he is certain that although he is facing despair right now, he is facing defeat right now, he is certain that it's temporary. He is certain that there will come a time when the Beit HaMikdash will be cleansed and rededicated, and that oil is going to be needed. Oh boy, is that going to be needed. That nameless Kohen, who looked beyond the immediate defeat, the immediate darkness, and saw that there is within the promise of Jewish history and Jewish destiny, Gam zeh yavor, this too will pass. It's a dark moment. But as I've said many times, it's a dark moment that will lead to even greater lightness, even greater illumination. And he understood this with a certainty that that oil will be needed again, and so he hid it. Chanukah urges us to feel and to teach to our children and our grandchildren from the youngest age the pride in being Jewish, the pride in being distinct in certain ways from the rest of the world, to be proud of it, and to be certain in our glorious destiny. No matter how dark the present may be, this is what Chanukah means. And this is what Chanukah gives to us, the Jewish people, not only today, but to take with us into the year, all year long. My friends, I wish you a great day, a beautiful 8th day of Chanukah, to enjoy these last remaining hours, to think about, to contemplate, to appreciate the lessons that we've been discussing since the beginning, and to think about how to take them forward for the rest of our lives, and how the darkness which is here will pass, is passing, and the future of the Jewish people is bright, and the destiny of the Jewish people is illuminated. That's the promise of Chanukah. My friends, again, a beautiful day, a great ending to Chanukah, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.